So welcome everybody back to SurvivalWorks here. Today we're just going to take a look at kind of and get some thought to collecting wild edibles. If you turn small children, let's say 2-3 years old, loose in a grocery store with no teachings, no warnings and such, and let them kind of put anything they feel like into their mouth, things are going to go bad, right? So how do we protect them? Well, we spend time with them, we teach them what you can eat and what you can't eat and what different sort of signs and symbols mean as far as like poisonous and this and that. So out here in the wilderness, it's not really any different, but there is a lot of fear about people putting stuff into their body for good reasons, because you can kill yourself by doing that wrong. But again, that's true in a grocery store too. It's just a matter of education and learning. So I don't want to put fear out there. I actually want people to get out there and to get involved with wild edibles. It's sort of where we all came from and a good practice to undertake. So what we're going to talk about today is actually the what we call the 6 rites of wild edibles. When you walk out into the woods, hopefully you have a field guide, wild edible book, something that can sort of be there with you to walk you through this. Even better yet is to have a friend who has some knowledge in this, take a class, a workshop, and combine all of that together. But when we start, we ask the first question, which is this the right plant? So the right plant is the ID question, right? Am I looking at what I think I'm looking at? You want to know what else might you think it is, right? So take a look at, are there any poisonous lookalikes and such? So is it the right plant is the first right. Is it the right part of the plant? So there are plants, even in the grocery store, that you can only eat certain parts of. A good example is rhubarb. You can eat the stalks, make pies, delicious, but the leaves actually have toxicity in those, so don't consume the leaves, right? So again, make sure you have the right plant and the right part. So another good thing with wild edibles is it the right time to harvest them? So on one end of the spectrum is just the fruit's not ripe yet, you're not going to get all of the good caloric value out of it. On another end of the spectrum is there are plants that actually have toxicity that disappears over time or isn't present at certain times of the year. So be sure when you're looking into wild edibles that you're also taking a look at pieces like that. A good example of that would be mayapple, American mandrake. It's an awesome plant. As a kid I called it the umbrella plant because it has just a single stalk going up in this kind of whorled leaf structure. Has a fruit that forms, flowers in May. That fruit and the plant and the root, the whole thing is toxic, not good to eat for the bulk of the year, but the fruit itself, come midsummer, mid-August kind of zone there, the fruit turns from this kind of rock-hard green thing to this banana-like, ripe, awesome smelling, very tropical-like fruit for the Northeast here. And it's one of my favorites, and that's the one part of the plant that you can eat at a certain time. So that's a good example of the right part and the right time. So you've got to, is it the right plant, is it the right part, and is it the right time? Next is it the right preparation? So again, some things like potatoes need to be kind of cooked in order to get them to a place that's more easily digested by the body. Same is true for wild plants. Processing them via cooking in certain ways, leaching certain stuff out of the water. So pay attention to that when you're learning wild edibles too. Sam Thayer has some really amazing books out there. He's the one I would send you to first for getting into wild edibles. Forager's Harvest, it's a good book to pick up. And then of course you can pick up things like Peterson's Field Guide series to wild edibles. So we also have the right place. Is it the right place to harvest? So what that means is where are the plants growing? If you're harvesting something like cattail and you're doing it from a pond that has no runoff from farm fields, isn't really kind of connected to beaver habitats, that's probably a good place to gather because you're avoiding some of the biological contaminants that you might come into, and you're also avoiding some of the human contaminants. If you're gathering the same plant, same time, same parts, all that, but you're doing it from roadside ditches, probably not the right place to be gathering from because of the toxicity that could be there in the forms of heavy metals and stuff. So you want to pay attention to that. And the final one that I will speak of here is kind of is it right to harvest? So it's great to get more people out there engaging in the natural world, especially with wild edibles, but it's also easy to over-harvest things. So this plant in front of me here is, some people call it ramps. This is like wild leeks. This is an amazing plant. They're going to get a little taller, a little bushier. You can not only eat these top portions, the leaves. They have a kind of an oniony, garlicky kind of smell, but the roots from these plants are little white tubers that are amazing to eat. So, but this is it. On my property, this little patch right here is all I have. So is it right for me to harvest from this spot? And I would say no. I'm not going to harvest from this spot because I can't really do so without harming the population. So get to know like kind of how tough and how strong hardy the populations are. With ramps, for example, there's some studies out there that say really taking more than 5 to 10% of a given population is going to become detrimental to that patch. So you have to kind of know who's going to come after you. If you take 10% and the next person comes and takes 10% and so on sort of public lands, you could be really doing harm to the plants. But if you have a forest or access to some land and there is a sizable population and you do it sustainably, you'll be doing great. And that's just wild leeks. There's so many plants out here. We'll talk more about some of them later, but some of them you can harvest 99 or 100% of them and they'll still come back next year. So just good to know, good to get out there and put wild edibles into your life, into your body. You'll feel better. So thanks again for joining us on the SurvivalWorks blog. Come find us on Facebook or check us out at our website, survivalworks.net.